thought she was just another quiet woman behind a cash register. Middle-aged, soft-spoken, invisible. But when the Admiral saw the tattoos on her arm, everything stopped. Because those symbols were classified, only worn by one unit in history. A unit that never officially existed. And a sniper who was supposed to be dead. Subscribe to Silent Stories, where the truth doesn't whisper, it echoes. It began on a cold Tuesday morning in the town of Maple Ridge, the kind of place where nothing ever happens until everything does. Clara Ellis, age 41, had just finished ringing up a bucket of nails and a garden hose at Thompson's Hardware when the glass doors exploded open and the world she'd hidden from came rushing back in. 12 agents in tactical gear stormed the store, faces covered, weapons drawn, shouting her name like she was on the most wanted list. Clara didn't run. She didn't speak. She simply placed the receipt on the counter, took a slow breath, and lifted her hands. Outside, as she was forced to her knees and handcuffed in front of stunned townsfolk and horrified customers, she glanced sideways. Her left sleeve had slipped up. And that's when Commander Alex Reese, a retired Navy SEAL now running a private security firm 2 blocks down, dropped his coffee. The tattoo peeking from beneath Clara's sleeve was unmistakable. An anchor wrapped in a serpent, etched in faded black ink. But it wasn't just the SEAL insignia. Beneath it sat the mark of Phantom 4, a unit whispered about in dark corners of the military. A sniper cell so lethal, so secret, that even most SEALs believed it was a myth. Except Reese had seen that mark before, only once, on the shoulder of the woman who saved his life in Kandahar and then vanished into thin air. Clara Ellis was Ghost Zero. The van didn't take her to the county jail. It bypassed local jurisdiction entirely and went straight to a military black site 2 hours outside of Norfolk. No charges read. No Miranda rights. Just silence. Until the reinforced interrogation room door opened, and Vice Admiral Nathan Granger walked in. He looked older than she remembered, his hair grayer, his uniform crisp and heavy with new medals. But his eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, hadn't changed. Neither had the tension that crackled between them like live wires. He didn't speak at first. He just stared. Then slowly, deliberately, he placed a single manila folder on the table between them and said, "I thought you were dead." Clara looked him dead in the eyes and replied, "I was." Granger opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos timestamped just 3 days earlier. Clara entering a gun range. Clara exiting with a gym bag. Clara helping her elderly neighbor carry groceries. Nothing overt, but to trained eyes it screamed precision. Poise. Lethality disguised as routine. "Why now?" he asked, not accusing, almost afraid. Clara leaned back, her face unreadable. "I didn't come out. Someone flushed me out." 2 weeks ago, a man she didn't recognize had walked into the hardware store. Tall, clean-cut, fake vet ink across his forearms. He asked odd questions about long-range scopes, thermal attachments, and brass polish. Then he leaned on the counter and whispered, "Ghost Zero still breathes." Clara didn't respond. But that night, she packed a duffel bag, cleaned the dust off a lockbox in her attic, and reassembled a custom Remington 700 from memory. She'd spent 14 years burying her past, but that sentence meant one terrifying thing. Someone else from Operation Silver Rain had survived. And worse, they were hunting. Silver Rain wasn't in any military record. It didn't officially happen. It was an unsanctioned hit deep in hostile territory, across a border no one dared acknowledge. Their objective: eliminate a rogue asset smuggling biometric tech to multiple nations. Clara and 5 others were dropped in. Only 4 made it to the rendezvous. 3 died before exfil. Only she escaped. And only because she'd broken the rules. She went dark, burned her comms, took a civilian ID and disappeared. No retirement ceremony, no folded flag, just shadows. Now, sitting in that room with Granger staring her down, Clara knew something. Someone had dug up Silver Rain. And they weren't trying to honor it. They were trying to erase the last piece of it. Granger rubbed his temple. "Langley says you're a liability." "Langley says a lot of things," Clara replied. They said Silver Rain was a success. Granger flinched. She saw it. You're not here because I got sloppy, she continued. You're here because someone out there's got a kill list and I'm on it. You need me alive long enough to find them. Granger didn't deny it. Instead, he slid another photo across the table. Grainy. A body, male, face down. The trident tattoo mutilated. That's Master Chief Sykes. Found last week outside a burned field office in Ankara. Same team. Same op. Clara didn't blink. Then it's already started. Outside the room, behind the one-way glass, 3 men watched. NSA, CIA, and a shadowy fourth. Clara had clocked the second she entered. He didn't have an ID badge. Didn't speak. But his eyes never left hers. And she knew him, not from her military past but from what came after. From the facility in Alaska where they trained the ghosts. From the red folder marked Spectre. He wasn't there to question her. He was there to make sure she never left. Unless she made herself useful. In the holding cell later that night, Clara paced. She didn't pray. She calculated. There were still variables missing. Who flushed her out? Why now? And how many of the original Phantom 4 were still alive? She stared at the flickering camera in the corner and gave a tight, humorless smile. You want a ghost, she murmured. You're about to get one. And 1,000 miles away, in a private hangar just outside Munich, a man with burned scars across his jaw ran a blade over his palm and whispered into a sat phone. She surfaced. Activate Red Echo. The response came through static. One word. Eliminate. Clara didn't sleep that night. She sat against the wall of her holding cell, legs crossed, eyes closed but hyper-aware. Every clink of boots in the hallway, every flicker in the overhead light, every change in air pressure. She felt it. Years of muscle memory don't die. They just go dormant. At 0300, the sound came. 2 clicks, then silence. Not a guard. A signal. She opened her eyes. They were testing her, seeing if she'd react. She didn't move. She wasn't going to play by their rules, not yet. But they'd already made their first mistake. By bringing her in, they'd shown their hand. Someone inside the system was desperate enough to risk exposure. And Clara wasn't about to die in a holding cell to protect men who erased her name from every record after Silver Rain. By sunrise, she was being transferred. Not to another cell, to a hangar. No insignias. No cameras. Just a dark convoy of SUVs and a single helicopter waiting on the tarmac. Granger stood nearby, hands in his coat pockets, jaw locked. You're being moved, he muttered. To a secure location. Let me guess, Clara said, stepping up into the chopper. Someplace no one knows I exist? That's the point, he answered. She stared at him, long and cold. You're afraid, she said. That means whoever's hunting us isn't just rogue. They're embedded. He didn't respond. He didn't have to. She could see it in his eyes. The chopper flew low and fast, skimming treetops until the landscape turned to coastline. Then they descended. A fortified facility dug into the cliffs. No signs, no designation. The type of place only 5-star clearance even knew existed. Clara walked in and was greeted not by soldiers but by scientists. Clean rooms, monitors, a tech grid that felt more NSA than Navy. They weren't detaining her. They were deploying her. And in the center of it all, standing like a ghost out of her past, was Sergeant Marcus Vell, one of the only surviving members of Phantom 4. Clara stopped. He looked older, thicker, with a heavy limp and a left arm wrapped in a compression sleeve. But the eyes were the same, tired, brutal, sharp. It's real then, she said softly. They're killing us one by one. Already killed 2, he replied. Graham's body washed up in the Baltic. They made it look like a suicide. Clara took a breath. How many of us are left? 3, Vell said. You, me, and Locke. Her stomach twisted. Locke's alive. Maybe. No one's seen him. But someone used his access code 2 nights ago in Qatar. And that access? It was classified ghost tier. Clara's heart pounded. That access level was shut down years ago. If Locke was using it, it meant he was either working for the enemy or being framed by them. That afternoon, Granger returned, but this time not alone. With him was a man in a suit, calm, smug, the kind of Washington operator who measured every word for optics. He introduced himself as Director Paul Harrow from National Defense Logistics, which Clara knew was a cover for a covert wing of Homeland. He laid out the situation with the casual arrogance of someone who thought he was still in control. A rogue operator is targeting members of the Silver Rain unit, he said, clicking through a digital portfolio. We believe it's a revenge campaign tied to the fallout of the mission. Clara crossed her arms. Silver Rain wasn't a mission. It was an assassination. And it didn't fail. It was sabotaged. Harrow didn't flinch. Then help us prove it. Why now? She asked. Why 15 years later? Because someone wants the story to stay buried, he said. And you're the last loose thread. That night, Clara sat with Vel in a windowless planning room, reviewing every classified detail of Silver Rain. Old maps, redacted transcripts, the last known coordinates of their extraction point. But something didn't add up. There was a 16-minute blackout in the operation log. No satellite coverage, no drone feeds, no comms. That was the window when the team was ambushed. Clara pointed at it on the timeline. This wasn't a glitch. This was a kill zone. Someone pulled the feed so they wouldn't have to clean up the bodies. Vel looked at her, eyes narrowing. Then we're not chasing a rogue agent. We're chasing a cleanup crew. Clara nodded. And we're the targets. The next morning, an encrypted signal came through a secure channel. A single line, Locke is alive. Port Victor. Midnight. Come alone. It smelled like a trap. But Clara didn't hesitate. She knew if she didn't go, Locke would vanish or be killed. Granger protested. Harrow threatened to pull her clearance. But Clara had already made up her mind. Vel handed her a suppressed Glock and a burner phone. If it's not him? He asked. Then they'll wish it was, she replied. Port Victor was abandoned. Cold wind howled off the Atlantic. She arrived early, scanned rooftops, counted exits. At 0:06, a figure emerged from behind a shipping container. Tall, gaunt, with a limp just like hers. Familiar and yet wrong. He stepped into the light. It was Locke. Older, paler, with a 1,000-yard stare that didn't blink. But it was him. You shouldn't have come, he said. Neither should you, Clara whispered. They said you were dead. I was. Until they needed me. Who's they? She asked. But before he could answer, a single shot rang out. A sniper round cracked through the air and exploded Locke's chest in a spray of red. Clara Dove returned fire into the shadows, but the shooter was gone. Clean, fast, military-trained. She dropped to her knees beside Locke as he choked on his last breath. He grabbed her sleeve, pulled her close and rasped. It wasn't Silver Rain. It was Spectre. Look under Odin's mark. Then he died. Clara staggered back, blood on her hands, her ears ringing. Odin's mark. That wasn't a person. That was a location. An NSA black vault rumored to house disavowed tech programs. And Spectre, that was the file name she'd seen at the Alaskan training facility. Whatever was happening now didn't start 15 years ago. It started before that. Before they were even deployed. Silver Rain was never the end. It was the beginning. And Clara wasn't the last survivor of a failed mission. She was the only witness to something far darker. Back at the compound, Vel was gone. Vanished. No logs. No trace. Clara stared at the empty bunk, her pulse spiking. They were picking them off one by one. Not because of what they'd done, but because of what they knew. And suddenly, Clara wasn't just fighting for her life. She was fighting to expose a secret that could bring down men in stars and suits alike. She walked to the armory, selected her rifle, a vintage build with her custom mods. She clipped her dog tags around her neck for the first time in 14 years. Then she looked in the mirror. The tattoos on her arms, once faded, now burned with purpose. She was done hiding. Ghost Zero was going back to war. The wind at the Virginia coast cut like a blade as Clara stood on the tarmac, boots grounded, eyes narrowed. Somewhere between the death of Locke and the disappearance of Vel, the mission had changed. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was reckoning. She'd been pulled from the shadows not because she was a threat, but because she was the last piece of a blueprint the Pentagon never wanted exposed. Silver Rain hadn't been a failure. It had been a test. A field experiment for a program darker than any black op she'd ever known. And Spectre wasn't just a file. It was a living operation. Still active. Still evolving. The name Odin's Mark echoed through her skull. Not as a memory, but as a riddle. Something that connected past and present, blood and betrayal. Back inside the secure compound, she cornered Granger. He was alone in the ops room, lit only by the glow of satellite screens and comm feeds. "You lied to me," she said quietly. "You always knew Spectre wasn't terminated." Granger didn't look up. "You think I had a choice? You had a choice the day you let them put kids through that program," she snapped. "We weren't soldiers, we were prototypes." He stood now, jaw clenched, fingers curled at his sides. "You don't understand what we were up against back then. We were losing ground to adversaries that didn't play by the rules. Spectre gave us a chance to stay ahead." "By what?" Clara shot back. "Augmenting operatives? Mind programming? Ghost tier access? You built monsters and then you buried them. And now someone's unearthing your graveyard." Granger's silence was an answer in itself. She knew she wouldn't get more from him. The chain of command was broken. The mission was hers now. She needed to get to Odin's Mark. The problem? It was off-grid, blacklisted, hidden behind 7 layers of fake data. The only way in was through the old intelligence ring tied to a man named Cashin Ward, a former CIA handler turned data mercenary, now operating out of an off-books drone facility in Scotland. Clara didn't wait for authorization. She stole a tactical jet that night, lifted off under radio silence, and vanished from U.S. radar over the Atlantic. Within hours, the media was flooded with headlines: "Fugitive SEAL suspected of CIA facility break-in." They were painting her as a traitor again. But that's what Spectre did. When someone got too close to the truth, they became the threat. She'd seen it before. She wasn't going to let them do it again. She touched down on a fog-slick airstrip just outside Glasgow and made contact with a deep-cover friend. Maeve Sinclair, a former MI5 tech analyst who owed Clara her life from a mission neither of them could talk about. Maeve hadn't aged. Sharp tongue, sharper eyes. "You sure know how to make an entrance," she said, ushering Clara into an underground safe house. "You've got 3 agencies tracking you, 1 dead drop intercepted, and oh, your old commander's having a stroke on live feed trying to explain how a dead sniper hijacked a jet." Clara allowed herself the briefest smile. "I need access to a server named Odin's Mark," she said. "And I need it now." Maeve paused, then whistled low. "Bloody hell, Clara. That's not a server. That's a vault. That thing's locked tighter than a Vatican confession booth." "Then unlock it," Clara said. "Because inside is the truth about Silver Rain. And Spectre." What Maeve found rattled even her. Odin's Mark wasn't just a file dump. It was a remote control interface. A command node for autonomous kill programs built into U.S. military satellites, drones, and surveillance systems. Built not for enemy tracking, but for internal cleanups. The kind Spectre specialized in. Clara stared at the screen. This is how they erased us. Not with bullets, with code. And the worst part? The system was live. Targets were being updated in real time. Clara's name was still blinking. And below hers, Vel. "He's alive," she breathed. "They never lost him. They're holding him." Maeve ran a trace. "Encrypted. He's in transit. Headed to an offshore holding facility, Norwegian waters. If they get him there, he disappears for good." Clara loaded her weapon and stood. "Then we intercept." They took a skiff across black waters under clouded moonlight, navigating by satellite ghost signals and decades-old extraction protocols Clara remembered by heart. The cargo vessel carrying Vel wasn't marked, but its escort drones gave it away. Clara boarded in the dead of night, moving through shadows like the sniper she once was. The ship's corridors were lined with foreign contractors, Private military, not government. That confirmed it. Spectre had gone freelance. These weren't patriots. These were cleaners. Clara took down the first 3 silently. A 4th got off a shot, but it missed, and then she was in. Vel was cuffed to a wall, bruised but breathing. "Took you long enough," he muttered. "You're heavier than I remember," she said, hauling him over her shoulder. But before they could reach the deck, an alarm blared, and a voice echoed over the intercom. "Clara Ellis, you are trespassing on classified property. Surrender now or we release the countermeasure." "What the hell is the countermeasure?" Vel asked. She didn't answer. She already knew. A hallway door slammed shut behind them, sealing off escape. From the ceiling, a small port opened. Hissing gas filled the space. Clara dropped a flash pellet, activated thermal visor, and punched through the emergency vent grid. They dropped 6 decks down into cold seawater, surfacing just as the upper decks exploded in a controlled detonation. No evidence. No survivors. At least that's what the report would say. They made it to a safe house in Denmark, barely alive. Maeve was already there, her face pale. "It's not over," she said. "They're activating Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? Clara asked. Maeve showed her the data. "They're wiping the archive. The entire Spectre program, all code, all records, all backups. In 12 hours, it'll be like it never existed." Clara stared at the flashing countdown on Maeve's laptop. 11 hours, 56 minutes. "There has to be a failsafe," she said. Maeve hesitated. "There is, but it's locked behind biometric access, yours." In a hidden server farm beneath Berlin, behind 20 feet of concrete and armed walls, sat the last uncorrupted Spectre backup, only accessible with the original Phantom team leader's DNA. Clara's. She was the kill switch and the key. "If you go in," Maeve warned, "you're not coming out." "That's the plan," Clara said. Across the globe, Spectre operatives were mobilizing. Not just to stop her, to erase her. Clara knew that if she failed, the truth about the experiments, the betrayals, the engineered kills, it would vanish. The Admiral, the director, everyone who used them like test subjects would walk free. But if she made it to Berlin, the whole world would see. And far away, deep beneath the Pentagon, Vice Admiral Granger stared at a dark monitor in a sealed command room. A red alert blinked. "Ghost 0 active." He closed his eyes, swallowed hard, and whispered to no one, "I told them. If she ever comes back. God help us all." The rain fell in heavy sheets across Berlin as Clara stepped out of the armored van and into the shadows of an alley near the checkpoint. She was soaked, bruised, and nearly out of time. 10 hours ago, she'd been a ghost. Now she was the most hunted woman on Earth. Spectre had activated its final protocol, a full system purge and kill order for every operative who had ever breathed near the truth. She was the last one standing. Inside her duffel bag were the only things that mattered now. An encrypted drive, her sniper gear, and a photograph, faded and water-stained, of her original team. Sykes, Graham, Locke, Vel, and her. 5 shadows standing in the snow on the day of silver rain. The day the government tested human weapons and called it patriotism. Maeve had arranged the entry into the Berlin server facility, posing as a NATO contractor with fake credentials and a pulse-patched body camera that fed Clara everything in real time. The place was a fortress. Thermal sensors, biometric checkpoints, pressure pads. It wasn't made to keep people out. It was made to keep one person in. Clara. Her DNA, her eye scan, her heartbeat had been the foundation of Spectre's biometric access systems. They needed her alive just long enough to wipe it all. But if she got in first, she could override everything. Expose it. Upload the entire Spectre archive to a secure mirror site set to go public in 45 countries. Truth was the only bullet she had left, and it had to hit clean. She breached the outer walls at 217, sliding between rotating camera arcs and blind spots only someone trained in sub-zero Arctic recon would even know existed. She moved like muscle memory, silent, fluid, lethal. The guards didn't even see her coming. A quick choke, a disabling shot to the knee, and they were unconscious before alarms could sound. But someone had anticipated her. Inside the core server room, standing like a phantom from the grave, was Director Harrow. No guards, no smug grin, just a pistol, and a worn look like he'd aged 10 years since their last meeting. "I told them you wouldn't stop," he said. "They didn't believe me, but I knew. The moment you saw those tattoos, you'd come back." Clara stared him down. "You created a kill machine, then tried to erase the soul behind it. You were never supposed to survive Silver Rain," he said. "None of you were. Then you should have sent more than a bullet." The shot came fast, but Clara was faster. She ducked, rolled, and fired once. Clean hit. Harrow dropped to the floor, not dead, but bleeding from the shoulder. She stepped over him, accessed the biometric terminal, and placed her hand on the scanner. A red light blinked, then green. Access granted. She opened the entire Spectre archive, every mission, every manipulated soldier, every name of every commander who signed off on illegal operations buried under false flags and fake terrorist threats. Names like Granger, Harrow, and a dozen others wearing stars on their collars. The upload began, but Spectre had a failsafe, a hardwired kill switch designed to self-destruct the core facility if triggered, and someone somewhere had just pressed it. Clara looked up as the lights began to flash red. Countdown, 300 seconds. She could run, but the upload would stop. The archive would be lost. She keyed in a bypass, locking herself in the server room. "Maeve," she said through the mic, calm but direct, "get Vel out. Get the drive. Get clear." "Clara?" "Do it." Silence. Then Maeve's voice cracked. "You better make it out of there." Clara didn't answer. As the upload neared 100%, her body ached, her lungs burned, but her mind was crystal clear. She wasn't dying a traitor. She wasn't vanishing in silence. She was going to burn the system that made her a weapon and called it love of country. She watched the final bar fill on the screen. 98%, 99%, 100%. Transfer complete. A silent beep. 45 secure nodes lit up across the world. The truth, freed. The explosion hit 7 seconds later. The building's upper structure collapsed. Fire raged. Emergency services flooded the perimeter. And somewhere beneath the rubble, the body of Clara Ellis, Ghost Zero, was declared unrecoverable. But 3 days later, on a quiet coast in northern Maine, a fisherman found a woman on the rocks. Limping, bleeding, but alive. She didn't say her name, just stared at the horizon and whispered, "Is it done?" The man nodded. "It's all over the news. They're calling it the biggest military leak since Snowden. Senators are screaming. Generals are resigning." The woman closed her eyes. Vice Admiral Granger, disgraced and under investigation, sat alone in a Senate hearing room, watching footage of Clara's tattoos broadcast on national television. A reporter called it the trident that sank the Navy's darkest secret. He turned to the screen, whispered, "You really did it," and left the room for the last time. In London, Maeve opened a package delivered with no return address. Inside was Clara's old dog tag and a photograph, this time of Clara standing with a new team. Civilian, unarmed, teaching survival tactics to teenage girls in an open forest under a wide blue sky. No military in sight. Clara Ellis had erased herself once. Now, she was writing a new chapter. One not built from silence and shadows, but from light. And that is the truth behind the woman they arrested as a nobody, who turned out to be the deadliest sniper the SEALs ever trained. A simple woman, a forgotten ghost, and a name that now lives in the conscience of a nation.